A Serbian Film may just be the most notorious and infamous disturbing film of all time.
Slušaj me pažljivo. Sprema se nešto veliko.
What's up? My name is Randall. Welcome to Graveyard Shift, where we talk about movies ranging from horror movies, slashers, action movies, kung fu, exploitation films of all kinds. We just want to stay up late watching these films and then come talk about it on this channel. So this episode, we're going to talk about A Serbian Film from 2010, I believe. It is a notoriously nasty, disturbing, gross film. So just viewer discretion is advised. I'm going to talk a little bit about it in detail. I will probably mute some words or whatever. If you want an unedited version of this, it'll likely be on my Patreon. I've got a whole other channel that I work on called The Punk Rock Review. We have a Patreon for that. So if you're interested, check it out. It would mean a lot to me if you supported just by watching the video, liking, and subscribing to the channel. We're trying to hit 2K subscribers. But I wanted to talk about A Serbian Film because, well, I hadn't watched it in a long time, and I think the last time I watched this movie, I didn't get out of it what I think I should have gotten out of it. I think that this movie is watched from people, and it's a disgusting film if you're just surface level watching it. And I don't think people are taking the time to look behind. I don't think many people take the time to look below the surface of what are admittedly very disgusting acts, heinous things that are happening to people. I think that stops most people in their tracks, right? And so there's something we can learn from this movie. And I'm about to talk about it for a little while. A Serbian Film is a 2010 exploitation psychological horror film made in Serbia that tells the experience of an aging porn star in need of money who agrees to participate in an art film only to discover that he has been tricked into participating in a snuff film with pedophilic and necrophilic themes. It's heavy stuff. It's pretty gross. But this is kind of what I'm saying though. If you read this and you don't watch the movie, I think you can already tell kind of the lesson to learn from this film. I don't necessarily think that it's the most disturbing film out there. It's probably ranked amongst the top 3 that I've watched, but I've seen a couple that I think are pretty gnarly and maybe worse than this, but it all comes down to personal tastes and personal lines drawn in the sand, you know? And I'd have a hard time with assault stuff, so like even I Spit on Your Grave is kind of hard for me to watch. Irreversible is tough for me. This one is quite rough. I will say this, it's weird seeing a movie like this where the tone and the subject matter are so dark, but the film is made fairly well. Like the acting is okay, but there's practical effects galore. There are things that you can watch this movie and get out of it that are things we typically as horror film fans enjoy, right? This is an extreme movie. This is not something for the faint of heart. If you get queasy easily, or if particular subjects just turn you off, I would avoid this film altogether. This is a hard to watch movie. And I think at one point I watched it and thought it was a boring movie. And I don't really know why I said those things. I genuinely don't. I can't remember what my brain was thinking back then, but I feel like maybe I just blocked some of it out. I really don't know what I was. I know the end of it, I was kind of like, oh, well, they talk about something and then they don't do it. So, whatever. Okay. This should have been said 5 minutes ago, but I guess, spoiler alert, this movie is 15 years old. If you haven't seen it by now and you're watching this, I feel like you kind of want to know what's going on in the movie. So we're about to start talking plot details. So, yeah, fair warning, spoiler alert for A Serbian Film. As if you really want to talk about this stuff. Do you really want to watch this? Probably not. Not after I tell you what's going on in the movie. Like the opening scene of the film is a porno film is on the screen. And then I guess it cuts and it transitions to the same time, right? As the scene's going on, it's showing the movie on the screen. And then it transitioned to like seeing who's watching the film, and it's this little boy. Like he's got to be like 6 or 7 years old. Then it transitions into the actor from the screen walking out of a bedroom door. So you find out that it's the boy's father is the star of that film. They have a very weird relationship with pornography and sex in that family. It's strange because the dad basically like kind of chuckles and takes it out of the thing. It's weird. I just watched this movie like 2 days ago, and I've already blocked out a ton of it. Man, I can hardly stomach this stuff. In another scene, they're in the bedroom, and he just casually puts on one of these videos. And it's just crazy how they casually do that in their bedroom. I guess the wife is looking for the same treatment that he was giving his co-stars in the movie, right? So it's a weird family. Their dynamic is strange. So this dude's what happens is he's struggling financially, and he gets approached by an ex like co-star, and they're like, hey, I got this job opportunity for you, and it's in the industry. So he goes and meets this director guy, and he's this really just gnarly, pretentious film guy, right? And that's okay. You can be a pretentious filmmaker and still be fine. It's whatever. But this dude has this grand idea of this earth-shattering, never going to be forgotten piece of art that's going to be super important in the future because of how just crazy it is. But it's just raw. It's art, and I can hardly stand people like that. So the main dude gets picked up in a car to get taken to this director's home, right? And the guy that's driving him has these really weird sunglasses on, like they're just tacky looking. And he has this film reel like tattooed behind his ear. I found it very ridiculous, right? And he's wearing like a tank top, like a beater. As I'm saying it out loud, I'm like, well, I got a rancid tattoo behind my ear, like on my head. I guess that may look stupid to some people, so I guess I shouldn't be judging, right? But that dude loves Creed, though. That's the vibe I got, that he was a big fan of Creed. But he gets to the film director's house, and they're talking, and this dude is talking about his movie, his project, like it's Citizen Kane or something. It's weird. The whole vibe, it's like The Godfather. It's this vibe of my movie's gonna be great, but you're like, you direct like porn. Yeah. At a certain point, there's this very young girl introduced into the movie, and I'm not really sure what was going on. They were doing some abusive things to her, and you can't really tell, like, is she part of this film? Is this scripted, or has she been like taken and being forced to do these things? It's really, really, really gross. It's hard to watch. Are they filming real life, or is this a girl that's an actor? You can't tell, because you can't really tell how old she is. In my opinion, she looks like she's 9th grade or so, and there was no like nudity involved with her at all. Okay, so that's not what they did. But I mean, this movie was rated NC-17, and as far as I know, it was banned in many countries around the world. And I don't know when it got unbanned or when it became okay to own it, but this movie has made its way through my store once or twice. Like when I sold movies, I've had copies of it. So they're shooting this movie like guerrilla style. Like these dudes will be filming stuff when he's just doing things, and then all of a sudden stuff will be happening, and then these guys with cameras will just appear, right? And at a certain point in the movie, the co-star woman that had gotten him interested in doing this project, she fillets him And while she's doing that, he's looking at a photo of that young girl. And I found that incredibly disturbing, right? I just don't, I got like physically ill a couple times watching this, like nauseous. Oh, it is hard to watch. But, you know, you crazy ass people out there want me to watch these movies and then talk about it. Back when I was doing this channel full time almost, before the Punk Rock Review kind of took off, you know, I was doing movie content almost daily, right? So this was requested a lot, this movie. So, you know, I think people would rather folks like me watch it and talk about it and they can kind of listen to it but be safely away from it than to go watch it themselves. I can't even be mad about that. There's like this woman who gets viciously physically beaten by like this cop. I don't know, man. It's and then she's filleting this dude at some point. They're filming all this stuff, but it seems like every day during this video shoot or this film that's being made, that things get a little bit more extreme and a little bit more extreme and a little more depraved and gnarly and disturbing and gross. It's weird, man. It's weird. So after a few days of this guy starts having horrible nightmares. He's wanting to quit. He's like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I can't remember exactly what it was, but they basically have shown him evidence of like, hey, you can't quit doing this. If you do, we're just going to make your life miserable. So they've got him by the balls, so to speak. And, you know, it's insane because this like really pretentious filmmaker, he thinks that his art is really important. And, you know, he displays narcissistic behaviors, you know, and it's a weird dynamic that he's got with his new star of his film. It's crazy. At a certain point in this movie, there's a truly detestable scene where the director guy has the star of the film kind of in a position where he has to watch something, and he shows him this video of the guy that was driving him from earlier. He's got like a mask on, or like a mask on, a hood on or something, and he's wearing that beater and just like whitey tighties. And there's this woman laying on a table, very much 9 months pregnant, and she's giving birth. And it's showing, it's very graphic, right? This is all practical effects, but it is like I watched another video on like just some of the background of this movie, and it's very clear when I'm fixing to explain something that is absolutely foul. This pregnant woman, she has this child, you know, he's holding the baby up and he like smacks his butt so it cries or whatever. There are some detestable things going on in this room at this point. And my mouth just went dry. Like I'm fairly grossed out. My first thought was to make a video basically saying, is this movie as bad as its reputation is? And then as I'm talking about it, I'm thinking like, it really is. I don't know what I was thinking back then a few years ago, saying that I thought this movie was boring. Because, well, I guess it kind of is boring, but like, it is shocking. She has the child, he gets the child, and then commences in, you know, doing just heinous things to this poor child, and there's blood happening, and it's just, and he's making this guy watch this, right? And as a viewer of this movie, you're watching at least a part of it. It's gnarly, man. It doesn't show specific things being penetrated, which thank God it doesn't, but it doesn't go that far. I will say that the movie doesn't show a lot of that. So you don't get, like, I've seen a movie called Thriller, right, where there's penetration happening and you see it very close, very vividly, and it looks more like a pornographic film than it does an exploitation revenge type movie, right? This one doesn't go that far. The gnarly stuff that's in this movie is more or less what you see them doing the act, but it's like a silhouette, and it's the acts are violent and despicable, and you know, they're gonna leave. Well, I mean, anybody that survives this, you're never gonna be without trauma. You know, you're gonna be basically useless for the rest of your life, probably. The PTSD that goes along with stuff like this is indescribable. I can't even figure out what the deal is with this movie. Things just keep getting weirder and weirder. Then he's starting to get aroused by things that you would think anyways, that he wouldn't typically be aroused by. Based on the story arc, that's what it seemed like. He's doing drugs, he's drinking, he's getting out of control. Then he starts hallucinating, and you can tell like he doesn't really know what he's doing in real life and what he's not. Reality has been blurred. The line between reality and like a dream or an altered state has been just completely mishmashed into one big giant screen that this guy's living through that he doesn't know, like, am I dreaming? Am I doing this? And you can tell like he's in another world, which, you know, what is that called? Foreshadowing. That's this dude's in for a world of hurt. I wrote down that they might be drugging him. They absolutely are drugging him. You find that out in hindsight towards the end of the movie, right? But he's becoming animalistic. His behavior's wild. I mean, the whole movie's wild, but his behavior's ramping up. It's getting more and more visceral and vicious. It's getting more vicious and dangerous and depraved. It's getting, is depraved? Is that the word? Depraved? They chain this woman up on all fours, and then they instruct him to go at it with her, and he does. Then they tell him to physically, and he does. And as he's doing that, he's making these animalistic noises, right? And then all of a sudden, out of frame, you see a hand come into frame holding a machete, and he's going at it, and he's whacking this chick with his hands, and then the machete gets put in his hand, and so he just whack, just completely decapitates the woman. It's insane. But then he continues, his carnal act until he finishes while beheading this woman. Then towards the end of the movie, his former co-star has decided that this is just too much, and she wants to quit. She wants to stop the video. She wants to quit. She wants to stop making this movie. She wants to take him with her and get out of there. And they say, no, we're not doing all that. They take her and put her in another room. They chain her up. They pull out her teeth. And then one of the guys, I can't remember who it was, force her to fillet him and then plugs her nose while she's doing it. And she's got no teeth. And, she just suffocates with her mouth around him. It is maybe one of the worst kills I've ever seen in a horror movie. Like, it's absolutely insane. I'm going to describe the end of this movie, and I'm going to try to do it in a way that I can have the video up on my channel. It may end up on Patreon just because of how brutal this really gets. So, one of the characters in this movie is his brother-in-law, right? Or no, his brother, who's a cop. And his brother has like the hots for his wife. And at one point, there's two people on a table with hoods on their heads, not moving. They're like passed out or whatever, right? And this dude's all drugged, and they tell him like, hey, you're supposed to, have relations with this person, while this masked guy is going to have relations with the other person. And so they do it or whatever, and there's dude has trouble inserting himself, and there ends up being sounds that you don't want to hear, flesh tearing, and then there's blood, and the two men are doing their thing with each person, and then somebody pulls the hood off of the one that the masked guy is going at it with, and it's his wife. And then they pull the hood off the masked guy, and it's his brother. And he's like, yeah, he's into it, because apparently he was part of the whole thing the whole time. And then they pull the hood off the other person, and it's the offspring.
And all the girlies say I'm pretty fly for a white guy.
And it might be the most repulsed I've ever been. It was, I had to pause it. There was no way I could continue watching this movie, because I had to get up and walk around, and I was taking notes, and I was just repulsed. So the end of the movie, the very end of the movie, like the last 5 minutes goes as this. They end up back at home. The little boys with the mom and dad, they're laying in bed. The last few minutes of them laying in bed. Dad's laying in bed, little boys in between dad and mom. Mom and dad are looking at each other, and they're just laying there, and the dad pulls out a gun, and he fires it through all three of them, ending their lives simultaneously, to, I guess, to be put out of their misery, right? Because that's going to be something you can't get over. I mean, that's a life ruining, vicious, disgusting thing. And you're like, oh, good, maybe the cops will come and find out what's going on and arrest all these people. But instead, this shadowy figure shows up that you had seen earlier in the movie for a brief second, shows up with these two guys. One of them's got a camera on his shoulder. And the very last scene, the very last words spoken are, start with the little one. And then the guy starts to unbuckle his pants, and then it cuts to black and credits roll. I think this movie was made for a few reasons. Dude, my mouth is dry. I'm sorry. I'm like... This movie is rough. But I think that it is made for a few reasons. One, I think it was made because people like to make extreme movies. And they like to do things that they're going to shock people with, right? And I think that's what this was. It was a shocking film. But I do think that this may be a cautionary tale of... And I think it might be really, really very relevant now because of all the stuff we got with OnlyFans and things out there. And it's basically saying, like, be careful what you get wrapped up in, right? Be careful what you do when you're young because it may come back to haunt you when you're older. This guy got into this lifestyle as a young man, became very famous, right? Well, you age out of this profession. And so he ages out. What happens? He starts having money trouble and he gets roped back into the life. Then he gets drugged, taken advantage of, and convinced to do all these disgusting, horrible things and ends up ending his own life, right? So I think that it may be a cautionary tales on the dangers of porn and what it can do to your brain and what kind of community you're attached to and you're representing and what can ultimately happen to you. Now, I think as an extreme example of all that, but I've seen a lot of videos online on YouTube and whatnot about people that are, ex-adult film stars that are traumatically damaged and they can't live a normal life after a certain age. And I think that might be maybe what this movie was going for. I don't know, because what else were you making this film for? What other reasons would there be other than to warn people against these, you remember that movie 8mm? This is like 8mm, 8mm, right? It's an insane. I will never watch this movie again. At least I don't think I'm gonna. But yeah, I don't really understand the movie. I don't like it. I'm a horror movie fan. I like Terrifier because it's kind of cartoonish, But this had a meanness to it that I'm not really used to. And I mean, I'll watch the disturbing films. I'm not afraid of them. But boy, it's hard. It's funny is that I was thinking today, I was like, I got to film this video today because if I don't, I'm going to forget about this movie and forget all the details in it, right? Because I have a problem with that. I'll watch a movie and I don't watch movies the same way everybody else does, but I also have a really bad short-term memory. I can't explain how grateful I am for that short-term memory problem right now because I'm going to forget most of this movie over the next couple of weeks and I want to. I don't want to think about it anymore. I had pretty grotesque dreams the other night and, I put myself through that. It's my own fault, but, we haven't even gotten to the gore score. I don't even think I want to do it, if I'm honest. I'm not even going to do the gore score because I don't care. We talked about this movie for 24 minutes. So there's nudity in this movie. There's a bunch of kills. There's a bunch of boobs. There's a bunch of violence. And there's a bunch of assaults. There's a bunch of traumatic stuff happening. So if you're interested in that, I say watch it. But I would also say, hey, maybe you shouldn't be interested in that. Maybe you shouldn't watch it. Anybody that I meet that enjoyed this movie, I would genuinely like to know why. What is it that you enjoyed about it? Because I didn't enjoy a single minute of this film. Yeah, this movie was terrible. It was terrible, man. It has earned its reputation. It has earned it because it is a hard film to watch, and I don't recommend that you go watch it. So, anyways, if you enjoyed my conversation about it, and you pity me for sitting through that film, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, become part of the Graveyard Shift family. I'm going to try to get some sleep. I'm glad I'm working a graveyard shift because I'm going to stay up all night tonight. I ain't trying to go to sleep tonight, man. I gotta cleanse my palate. I'm going to go watch something stupid. Let's see, what did I just get? I bought a bunch of movies recently. I need to make a video on all my new stuff. But I got Barbed Wire with Pamela Anderson. I'll go watch that. You know what I'm saying? But thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. A Serbian Film, not one to be fucked with. All right? Y'all have a great night. I'll see you in the next graveyard shift. Peace.